What are you doing?
Not much.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of Toy Shop Fab, where again I like to spend entirely way too much money, and in this case, all my money, building this truck so I could take it on power tour. Last thing we did with this truck was take it on an over 100-mile test drive. I think it averaged out to like 100, closer to 150 miles. Took it out on the freeway and around town. Engine ran at 206. Transmission ran at 255 on the freeway, which is extremely way too hot. They have charts out there you can look up. 255 degrees. Apparently, I'd make it 20,000 miles. Not good. We brought it back. I added a remote fan or a cooler, a fan on top of our remote transmission cooler underneath the truck. Wrapped my crossover pipe and made a little air dam for that secondary cooler and brought the temperature down to 221 on the freeway, which is a big jump. And by the little chart that I found on the internet says I'd get about 60,000 miles. Not bad, but I'd like to get more, and hopefully this transmission, although it's not staying in this truck, I would like it to be somewhat healthy for what I decide to use it for in the future. It's just in here now to get me back and forth to our event. So, let me show you guys what I've done so far. I did this off camera, not real happy about it because this poor thing is now down until I get a new fan, but I ripped the radiator or the fan shroud out of my Mustang to steal one of these guys right here. Now this fan has seen better days, but the fan itself works really well. Actually keeps this car pretty cool around the 195 mark on one fan. On extremely hot days, the second fan will kick on and off, but those things pull a lot of air and has done really well with this car. So I figured I pulled out the fan that came with it, which is one of the it's one of the universal fans you find. You can get them two for like 50 bucks on eBay. Has this little guy right here, this little fan blade. I was able to pull the motor and everything out and swap spots. So the high dollar motor and fan blade is fit in the cheaper universal fan body or the shroud body or whatever. I'll show you guys. And that way I can mount it up to the fan shroud that came with this radiator. So if you look down in there, you can see it's kind of a cheaper, it's the fan body that came with it, but has the bigger fan motor and stronger blade. Actually let this truck sit and idle by itself, no air moving through it, with the hood open, and that one fan kept this truck idling at 197. With the fan closed, it does creep up to about two. I think the highest I let it get was 208, but it took a really long time for it to get there. So that fan is moving a lot of air. That's the first thing I did. Second thing, here's now, even though we made the little air dam and fan for our secondary transmission cooler, I'm going to do one better, and we are going to disconnect it from the bottom of the radiator. Now, if you're new, what I've done is I ran our cooler lines from our transmission into the bottom of the radiator, and then from the radiator to our secondary cooler, because that's how factory does it. Factory usually just runs it from the transmission to the radiator. You can add a secondary cooler up front in front of the radiator if you want. I opted and mounted it under the truck. Probably not the best location because it's under the truck. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to disconnect it from the bottom of the radiator, get our transmission fluid away from the engine temp, and here is the original transmission cooler that I had in the truck with the big block. I just had it sitting in the corner and took it out. I am going to mount this using some of this 1-inch flat bar there. We're going to pull the grill off the truck again, so I can make some brackets and mount it in this area right here in front of our heat exchanger for the intercooler. That way that gets a lot of continuous airflow through it. Even when we're stopped, cooling fan is going to pull air through that heat exchanger, all that stuff, and help bring our transmission temps down even further. So I'm going to get you guys set up. We'll do a quick time lapse of getting our grill off, and then I'll quickly go into how I want to make the brackets and what it is I am doing to get that cooler set up. And here we go. Puppies. Here's our puppies. What are you doing? What are you doing? Huh? What are you doing? He's a good girl. Are you a good girl? Are you a good girl? He's a good boy? Huh? Yeah. All right. Those are our two new puppies. We inherited them. They come wandering up in our yard. My wife almost ran them over, and they haven't left since. So, grill is off the truck. And my original idea was to use some of this flat stock here, kind of bend it. You see this one's already got holes in it. I have another piece without holes, but I was going to bend this at like an L bracket, make one side short, one side long, come down underneath the heat exchanger there for the intercooler, kind of drill a hole and bolt it to our core support. But as you can see, in order for me to do that correctly, I've got to take my heat exchanger off, going down this far down and then bringing up our cooler, because it's got to sit pretty center in that heat exchanger there. That this would be extra long, and that I'd have to make it longer, bolt it up to the top there to try and make it stronger. Otherwise, my transmission cooler would just be flapping and probably beat the heck out of that heat exchanger, causing a leak somewhere down the road. And so I decided not to do that. Here's what I did come up with, though. Using CAD, right? Cardboard aided design. I have made this. This is a simple bracket. This is a 3 1/4 inch by, I want to say like 7 inches. However long one of those squares is, that's what this is. I got 2 holes marked in the top here, and that's because my heat exchanger came with 2 10mm studs, if you can get in there, on each side of it. So that's for fan mounting. Maybe you can make L brackets to making mounting this thing much easier. And of course, I didn't do that. I welded some flat stock to the other side to get it as far in as possible to mount it behind my horn support or where the hood latch goes. The center support for our radiator support, which mounts everything else. So, but here's what we got. This is the top piece here. Basically, it just slides over those 2 holes. I marked it. That way I knew exactly where to put a bend, and then came up with this guy here. So this is the one top bracket I've already cut, bent up, and mounted it to the top end of our transmission cooler. It'll come in here. See if I can do this. Slip right over that were 2. Let's see, I'll start them by hand here. Got 2 10mm bolts. We'll tighten up and hold this thing secure. Now all I have to do is mirror this pattern right here, which I've already drawn out on my little workbench here. So you can see, drew it out, marked the holes. I just have to make sure to bend this one, mirroring this one, so I don't end up with 2 brackets the same, because that would be really silly. But I figure I've already actually set the grill back in place, because needed to make sure that that wasn't going to be blocking our grill, and it does not. And actually doing it this way puts it right in the center of the mouth of the grill, so it will get all the airflow. I won't be blocking any part of that transmission cooler, which is good. So what I'm going to do now is set you guys up in our in my little helper here, my cameraman. Do a little time lapse, cut out this bracket, show you what I did to bend it up, and we'll get the bottom piece mounted to our cooler there. Make sure that's all nice and secure. Tie our lines in, and move on to our next little project. So, time lapse. Okay, our piece is cut. Now, most of the time with aluminum, you guys have seen me, I just take a cutoff wheel, put a mark on the back side, and then bend it over and weld it back up. And that's because when you scratch aluminum and you try to bend it cold, it cracks. It makes it really, really flimsy. Well, I want to do this without using a welder, because this is something easy anybody can do, really. And in order to, what I do if I'm not going to scratch it and weld it is I'll use a MAP gas there. What you want to do is you just heat it up across where you're going to bend it, and it just softens it up a little bit, resist cracking. So another thing is too, if you don't own a brake and you want to bend something with a nice even line going down or whatever, the best way to do it is if you got a vise or something you can clamp the metal into, use a hammer to fold it over. But if you're going to use a hammer, you line the line up exactly where you want. If a vise is too small, grab yourself another piece of steel there to hammer against. Now, another thing too, when you want to bend this over, it's going to want to bow the backside. So to help prevent it from bowing and keeping it straight, grab yourself another piece of steel as a backing and clamp it close to the piece you want to bend. That'll keep this line right here that you're hammering against, and this line right here that you're hammering towards. It'll keep that bend pretty consistent. Of course, I mean, you're going to have to work it a little bit once you're done, but nowhere near as much. If I was to sit here and try to fold that in the vise, you loosen it up, move it back and forth. This just kind of helps me keep it in one spot. And then you got to work it against an edge or something to help straighten everything out. So that's just how I do it. If you do it differently, let me know, right? I'm willing to try out new things. That's what all this is about, learning. So, but anyways, this is what I do. This is how I bend aluminum if I'm not going to cut the back and weld it up. And another time lapse. And that is how brackets are made. Anyways, you guys saw there, I just heated the aluminum up with the torch, folded it over. I pulled it off our vise, took it over to my belt sander, flattened the face out, and then finished it off with some 150 down to 320. Took all my hammer marks out of it. Show you guys what it looks like. So there's the face of that bracket that I hammered on. As you can see, there are no more hammer marks in the top one or the bottom one. And you can also see I went ahead and just mounted it up. Went ahead and tied into our existing transmission lines. Just pulled these off the front or off the lower tank of the radiator. Brought them up here. Use a couple of those barb fittings to tie into the existing lines with some hose clamps. Now I fired it up once and I had a leak. So I shut it off really fast, tightened it up. So now I'm going to go ahead and fire it up again. Double check, make sure we don't have any leaks. Let's see what we got. Alright, that looks good. Fingers crossed, this definitely helps bring our transmission temps down that much farther. And you get this monkey back here, he keeps running away from the camera. But fingers crossed, that helps bring our transmission temps down even further. That, I guess, I think I mentioned that was the original transmission cooler I had in this truck with that transmission when it had the big block and pulled that trailer, that motorcycle, and a motorcycle lift, and it did just fine. So I'm thinking because I went of this radiator being a different size, this engine runs a little bit hotter than that big block does. So hopefully this helps cure that problem. Now, I need to get the grill back in, but before I do that, I want to go ahead and mount this guy right here. I do not have an overflow tank on this radiator, so I went on eBay, ordered one of these. And to keep with the whole theme of I'm not welding anything because not everybody has a welder. Plus, I wanted to see how well this little bracket holds up. As you can see, there are 2 hose clamps on this little bracket right here. The kit comes with 1, and I don't really trust just one, so I added another one. But all I'm going to do is just clamp it like it is right here with this little bracket. I'm going to drill some holes, and this guy is going to be mounted right here, which I think is a really good spot. It's out of the way. I can get to this guy right here, and this should work out for what I'm doing. Now, this is not 100% like a catch can. This is more along the lines of a surge tank because it doesn't have really a breather. What it does is it catches the fluid, the radiator pushes out when the cap kind of relieves pressure, and when it starts to cool down, it pulls it right back out of this tank. So I'll put a little bit of water in it just so it has it, but for the most part, this is just a surge tank. So fingers crossed it works. If not, I'll figure something out on the road, but for right now, this is just here to catch so I don't go spraying fluid all over the firewall hood and everything else. So get you set up in our little stand. We'll mark out where I want to drill. We'll get this thing mounted. Oh, I got that perfect. Oh. Yeah. All right, trans cooler's buttoned up, grill's back in, all my lights are in. We got the little surge tank is installed as well. Just gonna take this thing on a quick test drive. Kind of want to see what the trans tip's gonna do before I get started on my next project. Say hi, bud. Hi. So let's go ahead and get on the road and see if I can't get this transmission to heat up. actually the afternoon. Sometime between, let's see, it's 12:30 here. I got up early this morning, went to Harbor Freight because I needed to buy a tool, take this truck on another little test drive, and I figured since you guys have seen so many of my test drives since I put this together, I just went there, went back. I'm at the house right now. I'm gonna show you guys my transmission temp. First, let's show you the mileage. So you can see there, 245 miles on the truck. Transmission temp is 203. That is pulling in right now. See here, show you engine temp 203. Highest transmission got was 204, in the same distance, if not a little bit more than it took for the transmission to get 221 after my first upgrade. So putting that cooler up front knocked it down almost another, let's say 204 to 221. What is that, 16 degrees? And from our very first test drive, at where the highest it got was 255 to 204. That is a huge drop in temp, which is definitely going to give this transmission a lot more life. So if I've learned anything at all is, if you can, put a good cooler up front, take it out of the radiator, put it up front at least. And if you can, put a secondary in there. And make sure you put it where you get air, because if you don't, it doesn't work. So that is a huge step in getting this thing ready. So transmission's running pretty cool. Engine temp, I think only got to about 210, but that was sitting at stoplights because I took this thing straight through town. First thing, heat of the day, and it is hot. Just so I can test the cooling system of this truck, and it actually works out pretty good, a lot cooler than it did with that cheaper fan. So that's another thing. If you can spend the money on a really good fan, do that as well, and make sure you have a shroud. The only other thing I can do to this truck, maybe to knock the temps down, is I might change it to a 180 degree thermostat versus a 160 that's in this truck, because it's continuously circulating. It's not slowing the water down long enough to cool it off in the radiator when we're in town. Freeway speeds is not so bad, but in town driving, probably gonna do a thermostat change. So we'll see. I'm gonna leave the 160 in it right now, see how it does. If I have to change it out on the road, that's what I'll do. So now that we got those things taken care of, let's next thing I'm gonna do to this truck is we're gonna put AC in it. That's right, but it's not your typical AC. You guys know, watch me build this truck, this does not have an AC compressor. It just has a radiator fan, the heat exchanger for the turbo, and now a transmission cooler up front. This truck does not have AC, doesn't have a heater box, doesn't have any of that luxury. This truck is pretty much gutted. But my wife is going with me on Power Tour, and she picked up something that is really cool. So let me show you what I got. All right, so some of you guys may have already seen these, right? Scrolling TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, internet, wherever it is you spend your free time. This is actually a really cool unit. My wife found it. I didn't even know these were out there, but she really wanted to figure out a way to have AC. And she first was looking at those little fans that blow that light mist. And I said, no, because those blow a fine mist, right? It's water. They blow water, part of their little fans. So I said, no, I didn't want that. So she kept looking. And this is cool. This is what she ran across. Some of you may have seen these. This is an Icy Breeze. It is a ice chest. All right, pretty cool little unit. You guys see up there, it's got a little duct, and that is a vent. You can run it off a battery, right? They sell their own batteries. Or if you wanted a bunch of them, these actually run on the DeWalt batteries, believe it or not. Here is our power port. So you can plug it in here, and that'll go into your 12-volt power supply so that way you don't have to run off the battery. It's got a USB that can be used to charge your phone, or believe it or not, has a little on-off remote, which is kind of cool. But here's our power. Here our little fan kick on. See here, we are on the low speed. There's medium speed, high speed. Flows out of this guy right here, which is really, really cool. And for super cooling, it has this guy right here, or extreme cool. And extreme cool is, let's turn this around, that way you guys can see inside. Extreme cool is it has a water pump that picks up ice water from here, pumps it into this little radiator, and then back out, of course. So that's ice water that goes into here, which gets picked up by this fan and out this vent. And that's going to blow ice cold air at you, right? So kind of AC-ish. Definitely a lot better than just a fan that recirculates outside air. This is picking up ice cold air, so it's going to be a lot colder, right? Now you're probably thinking that's great. It'll work for you just fine if you're sitting outside under easy up, right? Watching or looking at all the other cars, just hanging out. What are you going to do inside the truck? Here's my plan. Originally, my wife asked if we could set this thing inside the truck. Now, physically, it kind of fits. It overhangs the seat probably by half a foot. It's up here. If I was to ride with it next to me, it'd be a little high. It's in the way, right? And if it decides to leak water, then I got water all over the inside of the truck, which was the main reason why I didn't want those little misty things. So she asked, well, is there any way we can get the ice cold air inside the truck? I said, sure, right? This is a drag and drive truck. It is gutted. This is a toy. This is something I can beat up on, have fun, learn. And I'm going to show you guys what I came up with. I cut a 3-inch hole in the front of the bed and a 2 1/4-inch hole, as you can see, inside the cab of the truck. Now you can see I've already marked it, and I got screw holes for one of these guys here. Let's see. Oh, there you go. This one's got the marks for it, because my plan is this hose here comes through here, goes through that hole. Let's see, with a gasket that I will make out of that stuff right there. But now we have this, and if I'm not using it, can just tuck out of the way right there. I've got a coupler right there where I can plug another, there we go, another one of these guys into and connect it to this guy here. So that unplugs from its little vent, comes out here, couples into another hose here, and then I can plug it into there, which comes out of this hose here, where I can tee it off to something, this hose here, run it across, and it'll pick ice cold air out of that cooler and blow it into the truck. And when it's not in use, I picked up one of these guys while I was out this morning as well. I will put a little groove in here with an O-ring or something, because when it's not in use, I can just take this and cap it and be done. All right, so basically, because that's a coupler, I can take that coupler off. This guy will sit inside the bed right here with an O-ring, sealing off the cab once again, and not allowing little critters to get inside. But anyways, that's the plan. Now, in order for this to work out for me, what I need to do, because when I cut the hole in the cab of the truck, I wanted to be able to stay below this main support right here. So I just went just below it, stayed off the pinch welds, although I probably could have gotten away with just going up into this. But I wanted this to stay intact. Plus, this is, it's thin. It's easier for me to make a patch panel for, and I don't disrupt any of this. And because I did that, as you guys can see, my battery box kind of goes into, or protrudes into the hole. So it's in my way. And I've taken a measurement and I need to cut, this is about 3/4 of an inch in the way. What I want to do is take 1 1/8 out of this battery box to drop it down. I've already taken a measurement for our terminal, so if I take that much out, I will still clear the lid. And that is also one of the reasons why I went out this morning. I went to my Harbor Freight to buy one of these guys here. Never seen it before. It flanges one side of your metal, squeezing it there, and then of course this side here is a hole punch. But I don't need the hole punch right now. I wanted that to give myself a nice, crisp, clean flange. I went ahead and tested it out on this guy here. You can see that. So when I cut off the bottom of the battery box there, I'll be able to flange it just like this to slide it back into place where it goes. Hopefully it works out the way I want. I'm going to start off with, I'll go ahead and pull that battery box to the side off, mark it out, cut it, reflange it. And so I'm going to set you guys up in my tripod there. That way you guys can check it out. And yeah, enough talking. Let's get into a time lapse. Battery box has been trimmed and reinstalled. I've also gone ahead and put the lid on our battery box as well to double check and test fit, make sure it does clear the hole. And as you can see there, it does. I've also gone ahead and installed the vent hose for the inside of the truck as well. As you saw there, it's screwed in, so it just comes right in here, curves up along the back side of the seat, goes into this little splitter, and it'll blow cold air on the pilot and co-pilot, hopefully keeping them nice and cool as they're driving during the hot week of Power Tour, or any other hot day for that matter. But so I'm really interested. I have filled that thing up with ice water because I am really interested. There we go. All kinds of ice water there. Been letting it sit there and marinate to get that water as cold as I can. Now, here's what. All right. So the reason I wanted to tie the vent hose from the inside of the truck, it wasn't my original idea. My original idea was to have it screwed in from the outside, or have the hose on the outside and plug in on the inside there, making it that way I didn't have a hose hanging out behind the seat. But I realized the hose would block the battery box, and if I needed to get to the battery quicker, the hose would be on my way, and I'd have to unscrew the hose from the truck each and every time, and I figured that would be just a huge pain. So kind of redesigned it a little bit, which is why the hose runs across the back of the seat now and just goes into the splitter. And all I have to do now is just take this hose with our coupler. It plugs right into that vent. Nice and secure. See if I can get you down in there so you can see. There is where it plugs in. Oh, yep. Not focusing as well as I want, but you get the idea. So comes out of our our little cooler there, plugs into our vent, hose on the inside, blowing cool air. So now let's go ahead and fire this thing up. Got power, kick it all the way on high. Let's turn our extreme cool on, which is a little water pump inside. Grab this guy right here. So let's see here. It says my dash is about 80 degrees. Now let's go ahead and put this guy in there. 69, oops, 68, 67, 66. Oh yeah. 65, 64, 63. That is actually quite impressive for that thing. Definitely gonna make it much more comfortable. Hi, little one. Definitely gonna make the drive much more comfortable, especially if you got the windows up, just cruising. Definitely better than not having AC and just driving with the hot air. So that is really cool. Um, I am going to warn you guys though, if you look into these, they are a bit pricey. My wife showed me and I was like, oh my gosh, they are a bit spendy. I will tell you that right now. But I mean, if you don't get the battery or none of the extra hoses, you kept it really, really simple. It's not too bad. You can use DeWalt batteries because my DeWalt plugs right into the top of that, which is really cool. So I'm going to have a bunch of them charged to have with us. I'm also going to put a power port in my battery box as well, probably down here on the side to plug in the cord so the thing doesn't run on batteries the whole time. But it is cool. It's actually going to be nice to have that because it's not, I mean, I could take it out of the truck. We'll be sitting there next to the truck in our chairs underneath an easy up. We got that guy right there. We can have cold air on us when we need it, cold drinks, water, stuff like that. So definitely help make the whole trip that much more comfortable. And like I said, it doesn't stay in the truck. I undo the ratchet strap and out it comes. So that is going to make this, it's going to make it nice. It is going to make it nice. Yeah, that's basically what I've got for the truck this video. We got our transmission temps down even farther, which is awesome. It's going to help that transmission last even longer. Got cabin temps down now as well with the help of that little, what is that, Icy Breeze ice chest. So look into it. Maybe it's something you guys want, you know, put it in a car, split it off. It's just, it's nice to have. Like I said, this, like I've said to you guys before, this is a just a built drag and drive truck. It's a toy, something I can play around with, beat up on, and just have fun with it. It's just basically a truck shell. There's still a bunch more work I want to do to this, but that's all after, that's all in the upcoming months. Right now, the truck is as far as I can get because it has taken all my money. So, but should make the drive. So, but anyways, you guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Share it, like it. Definitely give me a like. It helps. Definitely helps, right? So, yeah, that's what I got. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll catch you on the next one.